Hey everyone, and welcome back to Enginomics, my channel that goes over all things engineering and economic related. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different, but something that's been a tradition of this channel since it started, and that is go over my top 10, I have 10 this time, top 10 nonfiction books of 2021. It was a crazy year for a lot of people, but I actually found some time to sit down, relax, and pull out a book every so often. On this channel, I like to learn a lot, and I want to increase that knowledge base as much as possible. So I would definitely say if you had any books that you read last year that you liked as well, let me know, and hopefully I can include them in the book list of next year, because I actually did this back in 2020. It was one of my first videos that I ever did, and I really wanted to continue the tradition. So without further ado, let's get into my top favorite books. The first one of my favorite books this year was that of Deep Work, and I really love Deep Work. I actually made a whole video about the concepts in Deep Work, and it really affected me in some important ways. The basic premise behind that of Deep Work is that you should really carve out some time in your life to really focus on the tasks at hand and dig a little bit deeper on the work that you are completing. But it's really easy to become more distracted in today's society with your phone and computers and advertising all around you. So really focusing in on the tasks at hand and carving out some time that you can think deeply about that is really important. And it really goes into some concepts on how you can actually achieve that even while you're in the office or you're at school. Anyways, I'd really recommend Deep Work to anyone who's struggling with distractions, with work, with getting their work done and completing and time tracking them in a relatively self-centered manner. It doesn't have to be selfish to carve out a portion of your time to go and complete your work. It's important. Next, let's talk about Scale by Geoffrey. Scale is a book about growth and how it's sustainable, how it's not sustainable in certain situations, and really about the scale and growth of everything. On the cover here, it says, the universal laws of growth, innovation, sustainability, the pace of life of organisms, cities, economies, and companies. So there's obviously a lot of concepts right there on the cover, but I didn't really know what I was getting into. One of the main examples is that of companies and businesses. Companies and businesses grow and they shrink accordingly, given the markets. But it also talks about that of countries. It talks about organisms. One of my favorite chapters, for example, is that of why mammals aren't the size of ants, and why mammals grow to the size that they do, and why mammals aren't bigger and smaller, and really why that applies to just about everything else in the world. Another favorite example is that of cities. The whole second half of this book is dedicated to that of cities and how cities grow and scale. And I don't really think that they had any parallels with organisms or companies, but cities, countries, organisms, they all grow in different ways, and this book kind of puts it in perspective and is really interesting. It's a great read for anyone who's interested in the world around them. My third favorite nonfiction book that I read this year was Knowledge and Decisions by Sowell. This book is dense, and before I recommend it to anyone, I just need to preface it with that. I really wanted to get into the economics behind the personal finance that I've previously been really interested in, and Sowell is the first thing you go to with that. He's highly regarded as one of the best economists. This book won many awards. This and many other of his books won awards in economics and finance. So it really goes into the deep, deep things of economics, trade-offs, consumer behavior, why people act in certain ways. It really goes into a lot of detail on the abstracts, the trends that go into laws in a country. So if you are at all interested in personal finance and want to get more into the deep, deep economic thinking and concepts behind what makes society today society, I'd really recommend Knowledge and Decisions. He has a couple of other books too. I'll put them here and I'll link them down in the description. Definitely go into this if you're at all curious about that. My fourth favorite nonfiction book that I read this year was How I Built This by Guy Raz. You might know Guy Raz from NPR, and you also might know How I Built This from the podcast. This is a podcast adaptation of Guy Raz's podcast, How I Built This, where Guy Raz basically just interviews a bunch of entrepreneurs and company founders about how they founded their company. This book is great. It goes over crazy examples of everything from Stitch Fix to yogurt to just about any company that you can imagine. And all of them have way more interesting founding stories than you would have thought. I think the biggest takeaway from this book is no matter what your business is, no matter what your niche is, you can always carve out some space in there and find a way to make your company work. No two stories in this are the same. So if you're ever thinking about starting a company or want to maybe dive into the world of entrepreneurship, this is a great book to do that. And the accompanying podcast that he has is equally great. It has great interviews with the founders of these companies, and I would definitely recommend this book. My fifth favorite book this year was The Four by Scott Galloway. This book is great, and I don't have an actual physical copy here. I rented it on Audible. Anyways, whatever. Regardless, this book is fantastic, and The Four, it talks about the four biggest companies in the world, that being Facebook, Apple, Google, and Amazon, and those four companies are insane. And he kind of goes over what makes these companies stand out, why they've become so big, whether that growth is scalable, and how they impact everyday life, and how they came to be, and maybe what could be their downfall in the future. This book is really interesting for anyone who's interested in these four companies. And even if you're not interested in these four companies, you probably use these four companies on a daily basis. And he calls them the Four Horsemen, which is a little bit dramatic, but these four companies are truly influential in everyday life. So I definitely recommend this book to anyone looking to dive a little bit deeper. My sixth favorite book that I read this year was Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari. I know you might know Aziz Ansari for his roles on Parks and Rec or stand-up comedy, but this book is actually really interesting, and it actually inspired me to write my video that I have on the economics behind Tinder. Modern Romance is a crazy book about dating and love and romance in the modern age. It really goes into deep detail about statistics, why couples meet, how they meet these days, which is becoming increasingly online, and different ways around the world why dating culture is either better, different, more aggressive, less aggressive. It really dives into the details and the statistics behind dating. I definitely recommend it to anyone who is dating, anyone who is under 30 and dating in this modern world. If the last book got you down about the state of dating in the world, well, this book honestly might not help. Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam is a book about the decline of the American community and why it is that case. So his main argument, and I guess the title of the book, is named after that of the state of the sport of bowling. So right now in the US, there are more people that are bowling than ever before, but there are less bowling leagues than ever before. It goes into detail why participation in things such as school and church and community sports are on an all-time low. At the end, there might be a little bit of a spark of hope where he discusses how the internet has changed things socially, and also maybe what we can be doing in our local communities to make things a little bit better. I would definitely recommend this to anyone who is actively participating in their community, or maybe wondering why their community isn't as active as it probably should be. It's a great read. I think this actually might have been my favorite book of the year, and I wish this had a better solution than he outlines. Anyways, on to my next book, which honestly is a little bit of a downer as well. This book is called BS Jobs. I will not say the full title because I like to be friendly here on YouTube, but this book is called BS Jobs. And also this is an important read because according to the book, 37% of people think that their job is complete BS. It means that they're not adding any value to the workplace, that their job is just meant to be there, just to be there. And it goes through the different BS jobs that you might encounter. One being a duct taper, which just fixes things end to end. There might be someone who's just there to make the person above them feel important. There's a lot of jobs out there that are just to exist. So I feel for those people. I hope that I do not encounter those jobs in the future, but the book goes into the detail about why these exist, what we can maybe do about them in the future, and what you should do if you encounter one of these jobs. And finally, the 10th favorite book that I read in 2021 was The 4-Hour Workweek. I know I talked earlier about how my theme in 2020 was that of personal finance, but it kind of leaks over into 2021. And the 4-Hour Workweek is often hailed as one of the best. 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss is a great book if you're interested in passive income. I know that word gets thrown around a lot right now. You make passive income through this or that or crypto. Anyways, this book is kind of the granddaddy of them all because it goes into details about how you can eliminate unnecessary aspects of your 9 to 5 and maybe just make that a 9 to 1. That's 4 hours in a week, I guess. So it's an interesting book. A lot of it is exaggerated, but I think it's a great read for anyone who is looking to automate unnecessary tasks in their everyday work life. With that said, those are the 10 books that I read in 2021 that I really, really enjoyed. Is there any that I missed? Any that I should read in 2022, this year? I'm sorry this video's out late, by the way. I know it's February. Anyways, there's no better time to read than right now. So I definitely recommend all these books that I mentioned today, and I want you to let me know what I should read this year as well. Hopefully they'll be on my list in 2023. I'd also encourage you to check out my books from 2020. I have 10 other great recommendations there, and I will link all these books down in the description so that you can buy them on Amazon. Whatever, I don't have a kickback link. I have nothing to gain from this. I just wanted to recommend books out there. And I also want to hear from you guys about your favorite books that you read in the past couple of years and what I would enjoy based on these smattering of books that evidently point towards me hating my job. I don't hate my job. Regardless, thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to Enginomics if you really enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. I'll catch you next time. Bye.